Hey, everybody. I want y'all to give another round of applause for Michael Owens. I put him on the front. Well, everybody, it's been a hell of a year, hasn't it? A lot has happened since last year's dinner, and if we were to talk about it all tonight, I'd have to buy you breakfast, and I can't afford that. So, let's be honest. There's been plenty of bad, but there's been plenty of good and plenty to celebrate, too. And in the spirit of keeping our eyes on the prize, I want to speak tonight with you briefly about a few of the things that we've been doing here in terms of moving Whitfield forward and what it's going to take to move us forward in the coming years. So for those of us who are in tough parts of the state like this, progress isn't always measured in absolutes. It's not always about winning every election. A lot of times for us, it's about measuring neighborhood by neighborhood, percentage point by percentage point, vote by vote. One of the best pieces of advice I feel that I give to people who are working and organizing in this community is to look at the numbers. It's way, way too easy to get burned out when you're out here and you're working and you're not sweeping the board on election night. But grounding yourself in that reality, that you are making progress, will keep you going. So over the past few years here in Whitfield County, we've begun to right the ship. We've begun to turn things around and move in the right direction. So in the governor's race in 2014, we added 1,000 additional Democratic votes to the column compared to 2010. And that sort of movement was enough to reduce the margin of loss in this county by 12 points. And that movement gave us the honor of being the state that was most, or the county rather, that was most improved of any county in the entire state. Now in 2016, we did the same thing again. We added another 1,000 votes to the presidential column for Hillary Clinton compared to Barack Obama 4 years ago. Now, adding 1,000 votes, it may not sound like a lot. And it may not be a lot. We've got some people in here from parts of the state where 1,000 votes is a rounding error. But I will tell you that in this part of the state, where Democrats have been losing votes even in the past few years, adding that number of votes back to the column matters, and I think it's a good place to start from. So ultimately, and we're going to hear a little bit more tonight about what's going on at the state level, but I will tell you this, sooner or later, 1,000 votes here, 1,000 votes there is going to matter, because we're going to start seeing statewide elections where the margins are closer than you can imagine. And so your effort and your energy can actually literally make the difference in a statewide race. Now, perhaps the most important thing that I want to tell those of you in this room who are not currently active, whether it be in Whitfield County or it be in your counties around the state, political influence is cheap. What I mean by that, we hear all the time, oh, our political system is bought and paid for. Oh, there's money going this way, money going that way. But the work you do in between election days is ultimately what affects progress, and it's what affects the outcome. A vote is a vote, and a vote is important. But a vote, and let me make it very clear, a vote is not the work. A vote is the reward that you get to do after you've put in all the work that you needed to affect change. So you take all the political operatives, you take everybody in the country, all the elected officials, all the county operatives, state, local, federal, put them in a pile. At most, that's a few 100,000 people in a nation of 320 million people. That's crazy. But that also tells you the story of how effective you can be as an individual when you get involved. Now, what I'm about to tell you is not an exaggeration. If you get involved right now, and you give an hour of your time every week for the next year, you can mobilize at least 50 Democrats. You can add 50 Democratic votes to every local, state, and federal contest on the ballot next year. So when I said political influence is cheap, I meant it. You have more energy, more talent, and more ability than you may realize. And if you put yourself to work, we can make this happen. Now, all of the work and all of the progress that we've made over the past several years, it wouldn't have been possible without you. Ultimately, I've been a part of it, but the dozens and dozens of you who've come out, who've got involved, who've given your time, your energy, your money, you are what has made it happen. And I couldn't be prouder of each and every one of you. I've seen so many of you show up ready to work with no prior political experience, and ultimately, I've watched you find yourselves. I've watched you get out of your comfort zones. I've watched you learn new skills. I've watched you organize and become organizers in your own right, and it's absolutely amazing. And so what we do over the next year will have a huge impact. From our days this year, our days of action this year, to our Get Out the Vote efforts next year, you, as one individual, can make a phenomenal difference. And when we elect Democrats up and down the ballot next year, all across the state of Georgia, you will be able to say that you had a role in that. Thank you. Now I'm going to shut up now, and we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of the program. Our first speaker is going to introduce the first candidate who is with us tonight. He is a former State House representative in Ringgold and one of the last great Democratic representatives from this part of the state. Mr. McCracken Poston, will you come on?